sitting backstage, waiting for my turn to speak. Naturally, I was a bit nervous. And yes, I started sweating. But thank God for the AC. The AC is such a powerful yet underrated device. As a matter of fact, it's even related to well-being. Sounds crazy? Let me explain. An AC doesn't try to make a room permanently warm or cold. Instead, it constantly senses the temperature, compares it with a preset value, and makes small adjustments to keep the environment comfortable and stable. But what does this have to do with well-being? This continuous loop of sensing, processing, and acting is something that we can apply to our own lives. Let me ask you a question. When you feel exhausted, how many of you ignore those emotions to get through your day without interruption? Raise your hands. It is an inevitable part of growing up. We learn to hide our emotions to carry on with today's fast-paced life. Now, how many of you pay attention to your emotions and allow yourself to actually feel them? My name is Shahgol, and my fascination with ACs, other than the fact that it is so hot here in the UAE, stems from my passion for engineering. Now, in my experience, like most engineers, I tend to focus on the science and sometimes conceal my emotions. But this isn't unique to engineers. We all feel deeply, yet hide our emotions to some extent. Around a week before my 16th birthday, I started going to therapy. My life had taken a turn, and I needed help. Opening up my emotions was, in fact, the hardest part. But after hours of sessions with my therapist, guiding me through every step, I came to a realization that well-being isn't a destination. It's a system, an algorithm. So I asked myself, why don't we create a well-being algorithm? For those of you that aren't interested in STEM, an algorithm is like a manual that tells us how to do something step by step. Think of your well-being algorithm like a control system. Control systems mainly consist of three components: sensors, processors, and actuators. Let's start with sensors. Sensors detect what's happening. They capture feelings such as stress, anxiety, sadness, or excitement. For example, we notice a tight feeling in our chest or racing thoughts. And especially as of recent, well-being is being taken more seriously in external settings than ever before, from workplaces promoting mental health to schools introducing mindfulness programs. Yet, despite this awareness, we as humans often treat our emotions as problems to conceal rather than signals to understand. We tell ourselves to stay strong, to not make a scene, and in doing so, we silence the very feelings that could guide us. Emotions are the messengers. In the end, even licensed professionals such as therapists help us return to the simple truth that paying attention to our emotions is the first step towards well-being. There's a quote by Donald Winnicott, a British pediatrician, psychiatrist, and psychoanalyst, that's a lot of titles, that says, "It is a joy to be hidden and a disaster not to be found." In my eyes, it is a joy to be hidden means how safe and comfortable it can feel to conceal our emotions. And a disaster not to be found reminds us that this act of concealing our emotions often leads to emotional suffering. Emotions aren't burdens to hide away. They're signals asking us to better understand ourselves. They try to grab our attention so we console them, understand them, and truly live with them. We should be constantly sensing our emotions and trying to understand what each one is trying to tell us. There's a clarity from finally letting our mind and body speak the same language. The next part of this analogy is the processor. The processor is our brain. This is where reflection happens. We analyze patterns and identify triggers. We ask questions like, why am I feeling anxious? Maybe because there's an important competition or exam coming up. And finally, we have actuators. Actuators are the actions we take in response. They help adjust our mental and emotional state. Actions such as meditating, journaling, talking to a friend, preparing more thoroughly, or simply taking a break can greatly contribute to an improved well-being. Through these actions, we actively influence how we feel rather than leaving emotions on their own. This algorithm of sensing, processing, and acting repeats throughout our lives. That's important because our energy isn't static, it's dynamic, which means it can change and be flexible. Instead of judging ourselves for feeling stressed or overwhelmed, we can observe those signals, reflect on their meaning, and take actions to restore balance. Let me paint a picture. You're on your way to your first ever job interview when your car breaks down in the middle of the highway. Without the well-being algorithm, everything feels out of control. You rush, ignore your stress, make impulsive decisions, and arrive overwhelmed. Oof. On the other hand, if you use your well-being algorithm, you notice the fear rising. You don't run from it. You take a deep breath. You process the situation, you call a taxi, and walk in composed. By combining these steps, we can engineer our emotions even when life is unpredictable. The algorithm is all about creating a system that keeps us adaptive and connected to our environment. Now, after a couple months, with the help of my therapist and by implementing my very own personal well-being algorithm, I've learned to listen to my emotions closely and let myself truly feel them. And it's made me feel a lot better. Nothing significant changed around me, but a very significant change happened within me. Just like an AC, we should be constantly sensing the situations, process their meaning, and take viable actions to keep our minds stable. So well-being in the end is within you. It just needs an algorithm to start working. Thank you.